From our State House studio in Montgomery, I'm Todd Stacy. Welcome to Capitol Journal. Today was day 29 of the Alabama Legislature's 2025 regular session, the second to last day. After a speedy pace yesterday, things slowed down again today in the Senate. Top Democratic senators were upset about different pieces of legislation and took the opportunity to filibuster. The result being the Senate still has as many as 60 bills to get through on the final day, which is next Wednesday. One of those bills is Senate Bill 5 from State Senator Chris Elliott. It would change the State Archives and History Board from its current self-perpetuating structure to being appointed by various state leaders, similar to other state boards. The bill passed the Senate earlier this session, and it passed the House yesterday. But the House added an amendment, taking away the Senate's authority to confirm nominees. State Senator Roger Smitherman objected to that, and he filibustered the bill.
And they're going to take Senate confirmation off. No, you can't take Senate confirmation off. Let's just be very frank about it. I've already said what I think this bill is going to do, and I just said how I'm totally against the bill, but I won't stand in the way of your concurrence with the bill in terms of non-concurrence or whatever we got to do. But no, I'm not going to agree to that. I'm not going to agree to let whoever that might be wide and willy-nilly and just start throwing folks anywhere that they so see fit from the state and just without some oversight by us, at least as a body.
The Senate eventually voted to send the bill to a conference committee, so its fate will be decided when lawmakers return next week. The Senate today passed House Bill 166 from State Senator Donnie Chasteen. Known as the Focus Act, the bill would ban the use of cell phones by students in public school. During the debate, State Senator Chris Elliott again proposed an amendment to allow limited parent-student contact, but Chasteen urged lawmakers to reject it. The amendment failed, and the bill passed with broad support.
I would urge members to think carefully about that amendment. You're going to hear from parents back home if this passes and they're not able to they're not able to communicate with their child about practice being canceled, car breaking down, tire goes flat, forgot the soccer cleats.
The bill is tight as it is. There's devices that schools can use to put these phones away during instructional times. There's a front office that a child can use to call a parent. I think the biggest tether is going to come from parents not being able to contact their children. So in school systems where this has been implemented, it has worked.
With just one meeting day remaining in the session, lawmakers are running out of time to pass remaining legislation. Today's slowdown meant the Senate never got to consider more than 50 local bills waiting on final passage. Senate President Pro Tem Garland Gudger spoke with reporters about what to expect when senators return to Montgomery next week for the final day.
When the question about ending it today was the right decision, I believe, so that everyone stopped. We had a clean break, and then we're going into the last legislative day, knowing exactly what's in front of us. By trying to start fighting back and forth and going into the cloturing mode, I think all that does is create a little bit of animosity towards each side of the aisle, and we don't want that.
What about the police immunity bill?
There's going to probably be some talk about that. We're trying to figure out if that's going to be on there. Plus, we have some confirmations that we have to do. That's our duty in the Senate that we're going to have to focus on, too. As of right now, the local legislation is my main priority because all politics is local, and we want to make sure that we try to take care of our members here and the members in the House.
Possibility of being a long day next week?
Yes.
Busy 11 hours.
We're going to come in at 1 o'clock, just so you'll know, and we'll probably be here until we get through with everything we've got.
In the House, State Representative Susan DuBose had two bills passed today, or at least the Senate versions of her proposed legislation. The first was Senate Bill 76 from State Senator April Weaver, which exempts mothers who are nursing from being required to serve jury duty.
So I'm really excited that today we passed Parker's bill, which allows breastfeeding women to be exempt from jury duty. It's all thanks to a constituent, Candace Brown, whose 3-month-old baby Parker had to be toted down to the Jefferson County Courthouse, and they had to wait down there for hours while they waited on the judge to decide whether or not she had to serve in jury duty. So this guarantees that breastfeeding women will not have to go down to the courthouse with their babies and plead to be exempt from jury duty. I always want to stand up for women and women's rights. I want to protect babies and children in our state, and this is just a common sense bill that we needed to pass. We had the Supreme Court of the state of Alabama come out and clarify that indeed breastfeeding women should be exempt from jury duty, but we wanted to pass the legislation to make it loud and clear in the state of Alabama that we stand for moms and babies in the state.
That bill was amended in the House, so it must go back to the Senate for final passage. The second DuBose bill was Senate Bill 101 from State Senator Larry Stutz, which raises the age of medical consent from 14 to 18. This includes decisions on vaccines, counseling. Minors would still be allowed to consent on birth control or STD treatments.
In the state of Alabama, I think most people would be shocked to learn that the age of medical consent is 14. It was the lowest in the nation. In fact, only 3 states are below the age of 18. That meant that children, 14-year-olds, could make all their own medical decisions, and parents could be kept from even seeing their medical records. So this raises that age up to 16. It gives parents the opportunity to participate in the health care of their minor children, as we all know they should. It just makes sense. This is going to protect children, and it's going to be important for parents in the state of Alabama. I have had emotional passion pleas from parents begging for legislation to raise the age of medical consent. There are nightmare stories out there where 14-year-olds are making all their own decisions, where they may have mental incapacities and all sorts of things going on. And parents are being kept from finding out medical diagnoses when they could step in and help their children.
That bill will also have to go back to the Senate for final passage. Here's a look at other notable bills passing today. House Bill 165 from State Representative Rick Green would make Juneteenth an official state holiday. That's the day celebrating the end of slavery in America. Senate Bill 142 from State Senator Wes Kitchens would officially cut the state's ties to the ERIC voter registration database. The state now has its own database known as AVID. Senate Bill 158 from State Senator Tim Melson would prohibit foreign driver's licenses from being used as voter identification. And Senate Bill 158 from State Senator April Weaver would create a new crime of mail theft for someone stealing a package off the porch. And we'll be right back with tonight's guests.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online at video.aptv.org. Capital Journal episodes are also available on APTV's free mobile app. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page. And you can listen to past episodes of Capital Journal when you're driving or on the go with Capital Journal podcasts. Keep up with what's happening with Capital Journal.
Welcome back to Capital Journal. Joining me next is State Senator Tim Melson from Florence. Senator, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We're almost done.
We are.
One more day left. You
One
ready
more.
for this to be over?
I am ready, yeah.
I think everybody is, but you can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
Been a quieter session for you as compared to other ones, but you've been involved in this hemp issue, right? Cannabinoid products, CBD products. Yeah. You described it as kind of being out of control, and you and Mr. Witt in the House have worked on this legislation to kind of regulate the industry.
Right.
Walk me through kind of where this came from and what the bill does.
It initially started for me when I started having my local schools superintendents calling saying they were having a problem with individuals taking products that they were overdosing on. So they were either laced with something or involved with some other product besides just pure THC or too high THC. And so I just looked into it more and saw that there was an issue we needed to address. It was unregulated, uncontrolled, no certificate of analysis to know what's in it. And there was just a lot of questions that needed to be addressed. It wasn't an attempt to hurt any industry or do anything except protect individuals, and we've been doing that.
So it kind of derives because y'all passed that hemp bill years ago to allow agriculture
Right.
to grow those plants for products, right? Not for consumption. I think that's how you put it. It was not ever meant to be turn it into a vape or turn it into a gummy. Am I correct on that?
Oh, you're correct. It was meant for paper, clothing, and rope, things that hemp was normally used for. It's pretty funny if you go back and look around the 1600s. They initially grew hemp, and everybody had to grow it in Virginia, actually, and then in Pennsylvania, that was used for currency. So it's been around a long time. Yeah.
Interesting. So practically, how does it work? The ABC board is going to come in and regulate, and so their officers, I mean, they regulate tobacco and all that too, right? So
right.
it'll be similar to that in terms of going to stores and making sure they're not selling unregulated products.
That's right. I don't know if you remember this, but just a couple of years ago, we put an age limit on these products, and unfortunately, it just wasn't followed. It was 21 and over. We did it on kind of a honor system without too many guardrails, and we probably should have, in hindsight, had more. But it'll be in 21 and only stores, except the drinks. They could be in a retail grocery store, and otherwise they'll be a lot more controlled, a lot more regulated.
Okay. And you also mentioned, because there was some pushback on this from the producers themselves.
Sure.
Are you confident that those farmers, those producers, won't be negatively impacted? I mean, I guess some, if they're selling to those, bad actors, maybe they will be, but the legit products won't be affected.
Hopefully not. I mean, I can't say that some won't be, because it's going to, some of these were kind of, going bad type chemists, and that they were making a product that was not exactly by the book and the intent of the hemp bill. I mean, they weren't necessarily doing this just to be that way, but they were pretty creative in the products they made.
I see.
And so that's got to be addressed as well. But some people's probably going to get, feel the discomfort of having to change their business model.
Yeah. Relatedly, on the issue of medical marijuana, you were the author of the medical marijuana bill that passed 3 years ago? 4 years ago. I'm losing track. See, that's what I'm trying to get to. Is it's okay? 4 years ago, and still no products on the shelf, no patients who. I mean, that's why you did it. Was
no
for the
registry.
patients.
Yeah.
And so I know there's a lot of frustration. What do we know about? Because I know there's been some court rulings and trying to get things going. What do we know about the future of that? Because you offered a bill this year to kind of move the thing along. It just kind of died. But what's the future look like? Are we ever going to have those medical marijuana as y'all intended in the law?
I'm optimistic we will, but I'm also realistic. It took us 3 years to pass this bill during COVID, and in 4 non-COVID years we can't get it initiated, so that's kind of disappointing. I think there's been some good intentions, but bad advice heeded, and this every time it looks like something's going to break free, somebody either files another suit or a judge gives another ruling, and I expect it to be tied up for another year or two. But I hope we'll finally say enough's enough and step in. I think my bill this time would have done that. But
why did that bill not move forward? What was the reluctance from your colleagues?
I think that they thought, a few of them, that the courts were going to find a solution, and the last applicants protested pretty loud, the ones that received the application or they were approved for the license. And they got thrown out here 2 weeks ago, and now nobody has a license. They're going to have to start from scratch. And the bill I had said that the commission wouldn't pick the winners. It would be a new system for doing that. Some reputable people that work for the state would have gone out and found an organization that would have looked at the applications anew and determined who was a good candidate.
So, this time next year, or I guess earlier in the year, because the session's going to be earlier next year, if there's no resolution? If it's still a stalemate, will you bring your bill back and be more insistent, maybe?
I will bring it back. I was pretty insistent this year. So it's hard to say more, but something's got to be done. I mean, honestly, this bleeds over into the hemp products. People look for the alternative, that medical cannabis hadn't been established.
Oh,
and this,
that makes sense.
Yeah, this product was there. And they assumed that if they could take these products, even though they weren't regulated and verified for purity, they thought it was an alternative. And if you looked, everybody that came to the public hearings were there about how this was giving them health benefits. And they talked about their back pain, their, everything from insomnia to whatever. And it wasn't people complaining about their dress didn't fit from the hemp products. It was about how they were getting some medical benefit. And this is the same principle. So we need to get the medical cannabis up and going.
Switching gears, IVF. You also authored the law that was the fix, if you will, after the Alabama Supreme Court ruling that led to the closure of clinics, right? Or they stopped their
Sure.
IVF treatments. Y'all passed a law to make sure they were protected and all that. When that happened, I remember there were lots of folks, especially Democrats, who said, "Well, this isn't over. This law didn't fix everything, so we're going to be back and we're going to have to fix this." We didn't see that this year. It has really gone smoothly. In fact, you had a group come to the State House this year, I guess it was on the anniversary, to say thank you. And they were actually bringing babies who had been born as a result.
That was a good feeling.
Well, I was going to say, is that a good sign that the law does have staying power?
Oh, I think it does. I think that law, it was very simplistic. It wasn't complicated, and it just simply got them back in the clinics. And these individuals and families who were wanting to have another child got back in the program, and I think it was a good solution for a very difficult problem. I mean, there's a lot of ethical questions that still remain out there. Nobody wants to have a baby in a test tube somewhere in suspension, and that's what the concerns have been. And
there have to be guardrails. There have to be limits.
Yeah, and I. Well, I don't know if there have to be, but maybe there ought to be.
Yeah.
But those questions that are deep subjects that need to be analyzed and looked at, but in my mind, they're not pressing issues. We need to help these individuals that have been struggling for years to have a child to be able to have them.
You think we might see a federal fix to that one day, or would that kind of, I don't know, be better if it was a federal law?
Well, I'd have to see the law to say it would be better or not. It's hard to say till you see it. I mean, but it could be.
Yeah. Well, look, thanks for your time today. We're out of time. Good luck with the last day of session coming back on Wednesday, and we will see you then.
Sounds great. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
We'll be right back.
You can watch past episodes of Capitol Journal online anytime at Alabama Public Television's website, aptv.org. Click on the Online Video tab on the main page. You can also connect with Capitol Journal and link to past episodes on Capitol Journal's Facebook page.
Since 1997, Alabama Public Television has provided programs, services, and resources to child care professionals, teachers, and parents. Visit aptv.org/education to learn more.
Welcome back to Capitol Journal. Joining me next is State Representative Barbara Drummond from Mobile. Representative, thanks for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's been a big week for you because, all right, for 3 years, I've had you on the show, and we've been talking about your vaping bill, right? Bill trying to crack down on teen vaping. And every year I ask, is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year? Well, now we can say it is the year because you have successfully passed your vaping bill. So congratulations.
Well, thank you.
I'm sure it feels good.
It feels wonderful. Third time's the charm.
There you go.
I am more than grateful because this is one that we did because we're trying to save the lives of the children. And I think that's why I've kept this bill alive for so many years, because it was never about me or trying to get credit. It was about saving lives. Mm-hmm. And the moment we passed the bill yesterday, I thought about a strange young man who's no longer with us, who's now deceased. And I got a call 3 years ago from the superintendent in Dallas County notifying me that a young man had died from vaping because his vape pipe was laced with fentanyl.
Goodness.
And his spirit has been with me ever since, because I couldn't let this go, because I just could not bear the thought of another young person losing their lives from vaping. I mean, we don't know what is in these vape pipes, and so I'm gratified that we finally did something for the children of Alabama. I can't say that enough. That's what this has always has been about for me, is just safeguarding the welfare of and the health of those children.
Absolutely. I wanted to ask, because the bill has changed over the years, many amendments, many substitutes. I mean, it's really gone through the ringer. So now that it's going to the governor, if she signs it, walk me through the basics of what this iteration of the bill does.
But first, we're not going to say if she signs it. She's going to sign
right.
it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, the
knock on wood.
The Senate put a number of changes in the bill. One that was very, very noticeable. They have pretty much taken these products out of all convenience and grocery stores, with the exception of items that have already received FDA approval, which is not a large number. And the part that I think I'm more gratified about is that they increased the fees for those stores. All of those products will now have to be sold in 21 and up. So they're pretty much put them in adult stores, where you will have to have ID in order to buy those products. So what we did on yesterday, they put a change in the bill that actually help us to better regulate vaping in the state of Alabama. In addition to the fees, my original bill was about $2.5 million. They've increased those fees, and we're probably going to be well over $5 million, which means now ABC and ALEA will have enough resources to aggressively regulate vaping in the state of Alabama.
Yeah, I was going to ask, so it gives the ABC board regulatory authority, and they have enforcement mechanisms, kind of like they do for cigarettes and things like that.
Exactly. I mean, that was always in the original bill, but they did not have the resources to be able to go out and to enforce. Now they have those resources. In addition to that, I guess another part that they changed, but I'm still happy with it, is that we've taken the more punitive side out for young people, where we were going to give them a $50 fine. That has been taken out. But the part that I am really happy about, when those children violate on school campuses, and they will, we now have gestation classes that the Department of Ed will have to do. And those children, along with their parents, will have to go through those classes to educate them on all of the detrimental things that are inside vapes and what it will do to your body. And so I'm happy about the education component as well. Mm-hmm. So I'm really happy that we finally have gotten something passed that we can ensure the welfare of these young people. They will be put in 21 and up stores, and even what is being sold at the convenience stores and grocery stores still will have to be sold to individuals that are 21 and up. So
yeah, those FDA approved.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the convenience stores, they had a lot of pushback on this bill. They fought you because that's their business, and agree or disagree with the product itself. I mean, that's going to cost them money. So what do you say? What was your argument back to them as this bill was going through, understanding it might hurt their industry?
Well, I didn't know. I got the bill through the House. I got it through the Senate committee, and the Senate took that. I mean, I have to say, the convenience stores, the grocers, and the wholesalers, I applaud them, because they worked with me for 3 years on this bill. None of us knew of the changes that was going to be put in the bill, and I fought for the amendment that would give them the ability to sell those items that have been approved.
So they still get to sell, like, I'm thinking of like Juul and some of the more mainstream brands.
Well, they're mostly those items that are on the FDA registry that you will find that are American-made items. what this bill further does is that those items, and they usually are very cheap items where you find that you know not what is in them. I mean, formaldehyde, all of those bad ingredients. Foreign made, coming out of China, coming out of Mexico. This bill now mandates that those items can no longer come into Alabama, into our market. Alabama's taken a giant step on yesterday with the passage of this piece of legislation.
Well, again, congratulations. It's been a long time coming. You deserve a lot of credit for hanging in there when it's easy to give up after a couple of years on legislation. We're out of time, but Representative, I guess we'll see you back on Wednesday for sine die.
That's right, and I'm happy because I finally got it across the finish line. Third year's the charm.
There you go.
Well, thank you for hanging in there with me.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Happy to have you.
Okay.
Thanks again. We'll be right back.
Montgomery native Percy L. Julian was an internationally acclaimed chemist. The third African American to receive a PhD in chemistry, he specialized in the chemistry of natural products and their synthesis in the laboratory. This technology is very important in medicines, food products, paints, and firefighting foams, among other things. Julian received many awards, including election to the National Academy of Sciences and the National Inventors Hall of Fame.
That's our show for tonight. Thanks for watching. No show tomorrow night as the legislature has left town. We will return Friday night and Sunday at noon for Capitol Journal's Week in Review here on Alabama Public Television. For our Capitol Journal team, I'm Todd Stacy. We'll see you next time.